This case represents a basic test case as far as India is concerned. Twitter has been repeatedly asked, as also all of the service providers, the IT rules 2021 have come in. These are mandatory in nature. Please comply with the same. In law, there's either compliance or there is no compliance.
Hello and welcome to this very special edition of The Right Stand. This midweek edition, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to focus on one aspect. Those who want to break India, those who want to use anything or everything to try and stoke communal disharmony and to push their respective political narrative are ready to compromise and tarnish the image of the country. And if there are platforms / intermediaries which are willing to help such a cause, then we have a problem and they should be put to task. They should be punished and brought to account. Something to that effect is finally happening. And now Twitter is facing a barrage of complaints. The latest also coming through here, news coming through that a complaint has been given to the Tilak Marg police station against Twitter and other individuals for spreading fake news. The complaint is against activists including journalist Arfa Khanum and actor Swara Bhaskar starting a propaganda campaign to spread hate among citizens on the basis of the fake video uploaded on the Twitter of Abdul Shamad Saifi, being beaten in Loni in Ghaziabad. Now, in spite of clear information available, they used this video to spread hate and Twitter did nothing to pull down the tweet. Arunima now joining us live. Arunima, that is the larger aspect which the government finally now is cracking down, and more people are now going to complain and lodge complaints against the platform now that it is no longer have the shield of safe harbor.
Yes, Anand, this is the second complaint that has been filed with regards to the same incident that has happened in Loni. Ghaziabad police is already proving the incident in Loni. They have accused a lot of Twitter users of deliberately trying to spread misinformation, which would lead to a riot-like situation. Now, in the second complaint, which has been filed by a lawyer who had earlier approached Delhi High Court against Twitter's refusal to comply with the Ministry of Information Technology guidelines, the same lawyer now accuses Twitter, a lot of other Twitter users, some of whom you just named, as well as the MD of Twitter, Mr. Maheshwari, he's been personally named, accusing them of not regulating fake news, accusing them of creating a situation which would lead to
Arunima, just bear with me. We have a poor audio through coming with you. There's a lot of disturbance in your audio, so we'll just try and get you on the phone or just reconnect you here live on the broadcast. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, this is something which many people have had an issue with the platform being partisan in its decisions and in certain cases playing a role beyond just a platform, suspending certain posts and tweets and also acting upon the behest of certain people and even branding certain ministers of the government, their posts as manipulated. But on the other hand, not taking down fake posts, not taking down those posts which can create social unrest, and actually giving a platform and promoting those people who were directly attacking India with the intent to challenge its sovereignty, with the intent to try and break India. Even those posts which showed India's map in a distorted manner, which follows an enemy narrative, have been pushed and have been allowed to be propagated. Even those posts where people have directly abused the people of this country, branding 500 million people of this country as Hindu extremists, have gotten away with such posts, with Twitter taking no action under the garb of freedom of expression. While, if you remember, not so long ago, just last year, when the Amul CEO put out a post challenging China, at the time when we had a face-off with China and China had openly come out as an adversary, that post was suspended. And then they gave us an explanation, a very, very, strange explanation of a technical glitch. The former vice president finds his Twitter handles, suspended arbitrarily just because it has not been used. But such posts and such people who have been tweeting against with an anti-India narrative find their handles being promoted. This is a cause for serious concern, and now the platform is open to scrutiny, open to criminal proceedings against it. Arunima now joins us. So there is another complaint now against this, and there has been not just Twitter, but Twitter's MD and also other individuals who've been named because they deliberately continued to peddle a fake narrative.
Yes, this complaint has been filed by the same lawyer who had earlier challenged Twitter's non-compliance of IT rules in the Delhi High Court. That matter is still pending. It's coming up on the 6th of July. The same lawyer has now lodged a criminal complaint with the Tilak Nagar police station in Delhi, accusing Twitter users and Twitter platform, both Twitter India as well as Twitter Inc., of providing a platform to spread misinformation which could lead to communal discord, which could lead to riot. And in this case, Twitter MD, Mr. Maheshwari, has been named. Personal liability is what these lawyers are trying to fix. We'll have to wait and see if the Delhi police takes cognizance of that complaint or not. Reports also suggest that in the toolkit case, which Delhi police is probing, they have in fact questioned Mr. Maheshwari in Bangalore on the 31st of May. Delhi police is being extremely tight-lipped, but this is what we are hearing from central government, that this questioning has happened. And this fresh complaint which has been lodged will perhaps give Delhi police a chance to figure out actually what is the hierarchy in Twitter. If there is a problem as far as compliance with Indian laws are concerned, who in Twitter do you hold accountable? That is the question that Indian law enforcement agencies want an answer to, and that answer they have not found yet.
Well, Arunima, thank you for your inputs. The entire garb of freedom of speech, but there is an anti-India agenda and there is vitriol that's being spewed against this country. Its sovereignty being impinged and challenged. You can have politically differing opinions. You can go after political leaders and their policies. And that is what the freedom of speech allows you. But the reasonable restriction is that you do not engage in breach of trust. You do not engage in a direct attack to the sovereignty of the country, and you follow the rules and the laws of the country. You don't go against it, and you do not peddle false news and fake news. That is the biggest question that is coming under scrutiny, and that's why is it high time to punish such people who are doing it with a deliberate agenda, an agenda that is against the country. Let's try and look at some of these aspects where freedom of speech garb, but the anti-India agenda actually shows. Now, this is what is the issue. There is unverified hate and communally sensitive content which is allowed, and that has caused riots and communal incidents, and it has also polarized society. And there is a partisan way of correcting it and checking it. It also allows 250 plus pro-Khalistan handles to spew anti-India venom and also inflame secessionism. A break India angle and attitude which is being peddled and promoted. There is a case in the Honorable Supreme Court where Twitter has been charged with actually promoting Sikh for Justice and Khalistani handles around in 2019, June 2019, and in June, around 15th of June 2019, they actually then suspended the very same handles, and these handles were allowed to come back with different names and just changing their Twitter handles, but the origins and the handles remain the same. It also allows content to provoke situation, support to toolkit, hashtag farmer genocide to shame India. Where was the farmer genocide? Where is the fact check there, and where is the responsibility as a platform itself that you will not allow forces that are peddling a false narrative any footage? Double standards, US Capitol and also the Red Fort mayhem. So US Capitol and the attack there was blacked out. You unilaterally decide to suspend the Twitter handle of the president of a country, but you don't show the same respect to Red Fort and the false narrative that was peddled at that point in time. But you turn around and you brand this government's ministers as their posts being manipulated media. That's what is happening. Then map and identity violations, incorrect depiction of Jammu and Kashmir, big space for Jammu and Kashmir, hate India voices, and there is a narrative which is against Indian sovereignty, and that is being allowed. And there are people who are peddling it who have been given a free run. In fact, the allegation is that the Twitter's AI or the Twitter's algorithm actually amplifies those voices, whereas it tries to bury other voices that want to counter such a narrative. It allows fake, unverified, anonymous, automated bots, misinformation weaponized to target democracy. That's the charge. And what we are saying is it now time to take these Break India forces to task? Is it not time to take them head on and call them out one after the other? China NC spokesperson of the BJP is with us this evening. We also have Dilip Cherian, founder and consulting partner of Perfect Relations. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, senior fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies is with us. And political analyst Ravi Srivastava is also with us. And I'm going to start with Mr. Dilip Cherian. Your thoughts here. One should be all for political opposition. One should be all for expressing views against a particular government or a particular party. But here there seems to be an agenda where it is trying to portray the country in a bad light and create social unrest.
I think that you have portrayed this whole thing in the format of something which raises emotions. Let's for a minute look at it as a platform, and let's look at what happened in America with the vaccines. If the American government had taken the view that anyone who's opposing Dr. Fauci and what he is propagating is anti-America, then what would have happened on Twitter? So if you take issues which are not to do with, China, Galwan Valley, minister, right to speak, etc., and if you look very carefully at what a microblogging platform does, I think that what a microblogging platform does is gives room for people to vent their stuff. Now, when you have a compliance officer or a grievance officer, every government has the right to go to him with a piece of paper and say, we think this tweet is communal, it can fan hatred, it can result in dangerous public behavior, or it promotes rape or violence, and the compliance officer then has to judge it and take it down. That should be the process, and I think that is why the government of India, like several governments across the world, has taken a view that because of the prevalence of fake news and the prevalence of people who are hate spewers of any kind, of any color, we need a system by which this freedom on microblogging platforms, whether it's Facebook, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Twitter, is taken to task, and there should be a means of having a nodal officer in the country who we can go to and say, here is a legal complaint, a complaint which is backed by a superior officer, and we want it taken down because it could potentially mar the situation in the country. And I think that's good. But if you take the view of what happened with vaccinations and America, then you could have had the American government crack down on Twitter, because the number of anti-vaxxers on Twitter far outnumbers the people who are pro-vaccine. So you could actually have a situation where you could silence the entire debate on vaccines, RNA, DNA, all of that. So let's try and keep this debate about the content of what goes on Twitter rather than about national boundaries and barriers, etc., etc. Then we'll be able to get to some kind of conclusion as to whether we're moving in the right direction as a country.
But the basic premise, Dilip ji, was the same. The fact is, sir, that you and me can have a different point of view in terms of whether vaccines work or whether vaccines do not work. You and me can debate on whether I want to get vaccinated or I don't want to get vaccinated.
No. If it is a national policy.
Correct.
Suppose it is a national policy that you have to get vaccinated.
Correct.
Would I have the right to say this vaccine has, the blood of cows in it, whatever it is?
But
if I'm an anti-vaxxer, I can spew all kinds of stuff.
No, but can I do it? Can I do it without fact and without information? Can I peddle falsity?
I think that is why you need to have a compliance officer, and I think that government is well within its rights to say, let's set up a process. And I think that process needs to be transparent, and I fully support that, because otherwise there are lots of people on both sides of the fence, political fence, spewing venom at each other. That doesn't matter.
I am with you, sir. What I am trying to say, and where my issue is with a platform like Twitter and certain people who claim to be independent, is that they pick and choose their narratives, and the narrative is to fuel Hindu phobia. The narrative is but sir, please hear me out. If Twitter were to say that anybody and everybody who's saying something here, you complain and we'll regulate, is a different point of view. But if it starts to self-regulate and it selectively regulate, Dilip ji, and this is what Twitter has done. My point is that we know that the Khalistani agenda is secessionist. Why should they be promoted on Indian?
I think in the future, going forward, looking forward, government will have to say that these sites are propagating hate. Here is what we have, so we are complaining about it. And I think that's the right way to do it.
But here is the problem, Dilip ji, that this has been done. This has been done multiple times, and Twitter and platforms have tried to cock a snook, and they have actually promoted those people who are here to abuse the country. in the garb of taking a politically opposite position. Sir, please, you may have a difference with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, you may have a difference with the BJP, you may have a problem with the policy. Go ahead and criticize the policy. But there is a certain responsibility when you deliberately try and stoke communal disharmony and you peddle something which you have not verified just because you believe you can feed into Hindu phobia. And you can try and and then when the platform sir does something like that, then we should have an issue with it, and we should have an issue with people who claim to be independent but they are not. They are there with a particular agenda, and their agenda is also communal. I'm just going to open it up. Shaina NC, come in.
Yeah. Anand, I have 2-3 points to make. Now, in recent times, what have we seen? We have seen crimes using social media as a platform. For example, posting of hate speeches, solicitation for terror activities, etc. And the current scenario, the government has directed the social media companies to take down such posts. Now, there have been complaints in the past too, where the giants didn't bother to even respond or expedite. And then they started using terms such as manipulated media. Now, the guidelines that were released in February clearly said that there needs to be a grievance officer, no grievance officer. There needs to be a chief compliance officer. There needs to be a nodal contact person. There needs to be somebody who published their details on a website of the company. None of the above. Now, the rules that require for companies to submit monthly reports, should that not be part of a status in terms of a resolution? So far, even that requirement has not been complied with. Now, in India, Section 79 of the IT Act gives social media companies the protection, but also gives them that they must have legal prosecution to monitor where this content is coming from, and if not, they cannot use tags like manipulated media. The new rules that the companies have to appoint designated people has been done in the United States as well, as Dilip stated. And it is not as if we are asking for anything which is out of the ordinary. The reply that we got from them was as if it was they are doing us a favor. Now, sometimes being defamed or someone being abused on the platforms or there being no liability is still understandable. But to spread communal hate, venom at a time when India is united to fight corona, and you have people who are victims who have suffered, and there seems to be, not just in India, but even globally, there have been demands that we want transparent functioning. We want to have that enormous power that they yield.
Yeah, but
there should be some accountability. When Ravi Shankar Prasad ji has given ultimatum after ultimatum, how come you get only cocky replies? And Twitter accounts to India and to its people. Forget, even if you say that they have not come to answer Parliament, aren't they answerable to the people of
India?
Ravi,
1 minute.
And if we have a course of investigation, then there's a big question mark. What is the reason for this? I want to only say that if you're using the social media platform, yes, but if you're going to spread hate in our country, our Prime Minister and our IT Minister is not going to tolerate it.
No, see, I'll tell you what, the hate, there is a difference. Shainaji, 1 minute. Shainaji, 1 minute. I am all for anybody who hates the Prime Minister or hates the BJP. And you should then stick to that line.
I'm not.
No. You as a political party, you will obviously represent the BJP. But I'm just saying that in our country, that's the beauty of our country, that you have the right to politically differ. And you can take a position against a particular person and his policies. I'm not saying get personal with the person. I'm saying you have a position against an ideology of a party, against the policy of a. So you take that. There are people who will criticize.
Yes.
They will criticize your vaccine policy. They will criticize your vaccination drive. They will criticize the way you have gone about it. That is something which is the right.
They cannot defame my country.
Correct.
They cannot.
Correct. And that's where I'm saying we need to draw the line, because there are many people who, in the garb of Modi Virod and BJP Virod, are saying, let's try and stoke communal unrest. Let's try and feed into Hindu phobia. Let's try and peddle a narrative which actually plays into the arms of the adversary. Abhijit Iyer Mitra is there. He's also on the brunt of a certain amount of censorship. You've been on the wrong side, in a wrong end of the stick also, Abhijit Iyer Mitra. Where do you stand on this?
Look, the point here is we're holding these companies to their own standards. Okay. First, if you take upon yourself the responsibility of tagging manipulated media or not, imagine that the person you rely on to do your fact checking is the one actually tweeting out the manipulated media. All right, number one. Number two, when you yourself have a very strict policy of blocking and removing anti-vaxxer tweets, why is it that you allow some people to then present blatantly false tweets that are designed very specifically to increase vaccine hesitancy? All right. Now, we didn't make these policies. Twitter made the policy against manipulated media.
Yeah.
Twitter made the policy against anti-vaccination. So when you don't follow your own policies, Twitter also incidentally has a policy that once you have been deplatformed and banned and have your account suspended, you can't start up a second account. Yet Ms. Shaila Rashid Shora's account was shut down in 2018, and now you can still go to it and see it's a suspended account. Yet surprisingly enough, she gets 2016, sorry, and yet surprisingly enough, she has another account, and this time it's blue ticked. They are so consistently violating their own policies that you then have to ask, at this point, you are no longer an intermediary, you are playing games, and you are taking a clearly partisan position. Now, in this particular case, Mr. Dilip Cherian was absolutely right. It is emotional. But here is the problem. Who was resorting to the emotion? It was the fellow who tweeted out the video that was resorting to the emotion. He was clearly trying to start a communal riot. And the person has only one job, that to do a fact check.
Yeah.
He couldn't even think why that video had the audio redacted from it. He didn't even think why is the second video of the gentleman claiming that I was supposed to say Jai Shri Ram at a separate location with a chaperone and everything. He never thought of this. And what is the, and by the
I
way,
have a different point.
just to be very clear, Alt News has been removed from the international fact-checking networks, this thing. So basically, Twitter has tied up in some private crony capitalist nepotist capacity with this so-called fact-checking organization, which means the burden of due diligence is on Twitter. If you at least said we are, conforming to some international standard, international validation, chapa, whatever, this thing, you have a case for shifting legal burdens elsewhere.
Right.
Here, it lands exactly at Alt News and it lands exactly at Twitter's doorstep. They have to be held criminally liable.
No, and not just that, the entire lineup itself of those people who are claiming to be independent fact checkers, they are not independent. They target only a particular leader and a political party. So their agenda is very clear. They are anti-Modi and anti-BJP. See,
if anti-Modi or
no, I know. I'm just saying. Then they should not be. My point is, they are free to have that position, but then they are not independent. Because then they are not taking an equanimous position, and when Twitter allies with them and says they are the ones who are going to do a fact check, then that means they are also here with a particular agenda that is against this current disposition. All right, even there, don't call yourself an independent platform, but at least don't allow those people who are here representing a false map of India, who are here talking about a secessionist and breaking India, and don't give them a platform who are actually challenging the sovereignty of the country. There has to be a line that has to be drawn. That's what I'm trying to say. The person who is claiming to be fact-checking once, I'll tell you, go to that person's Twitter handle. He's named in the FIR, and he has tweeted a map of India which shows POJK as disputed and Aksai Chin as disputed. Which map of our country from India's point of view cartographically says that POJK is disputed, especially after Article 370, where we have very clearly said that it is all part of the Union Territory of Ladakh. I am just saying, as a citizen of this country, will you peddle a Chinese or a Pakistani narrative on the on the map of our country? Or will you stand up for the map of what you believe is our country? Very clearly, that's where I am trying to say there is a problem, sir. That their agenda is not against a leader or a party, and if that is there, then you're not independent anyway, because you are also coming there as a political propagandist against a particular leadership and a particular party. So then you are not independent.
like I said, look, it doesn't matter if he's coming as the propagandist of a political party or not, and if he has a grudge against the BJP or the Prime Minister. I particularly don't even care about the map, because you could say it is a fact check that India does not hold this territory, therefore I'm truly representing something. This is a completely different issue. The issue here is one of deliberately putting out manipulated media, failing fact checks. Then, when you have been told it is manipulated media, you still do not take it down and impose penalties on the person putting it. You still do not mark it as manipulated media. And then on top of that, you use it to stoke up communal tension left, right, and center. That is the issue out here.
Ravi Srivastava, please, yeah.
See, Twitter India has been operating in India for last 15 years. And in 2014, our Honorable Prime Minister himself was tagging Jack Dorsey and thanking him for his support. And in 2016, our IT Minister, Mr. R.S. Prasad, was saying that Twitter is doing a wonderful job in propagating the government policies. And today we are finding that the Twitter is only at fault, and Twitter is only doing all kind of mischievous agenda. What I am asking, that International Internet Foundation has found that this word intermediary is not to be decided by the government, sir. It has to be decided by the Honorable Court of Law, by the IT Act, that does not accord any status or power towards anybody becoming an intermediary. What I'm saying is that asking for a nodal officer or a compliance officer or a grievance redressal officer is valid, because all kind of material is floating, the content is floating on the Twitter.
Anand, please
So
let me.
Yeah, sure. Let him finish.
The kind of fact check, the kind of all this, I just want to take the case of yours, this Abdul Samad case. This is being shown as this is a communal hatred case. I fully agree with you. Why the Ghaziabad police took 11 days to find out? Look, it was not a communal case. Somebody only did a torture to the old man and cut his beard. So where is there is no communal case, and I fully agree with him. So, but this kind of a report or this kind of a fact check, why the government cannot do in 48 hours or 24 hours? Why not to complain to the platform that look, this agenda is dangerous. This
No,
agenda
that's a fair question.
Please
That's a fair question. But Ravi Srivastava ji, just stand back and think. Those people who pushed this video, had it been the other way around, sir, what would they have done? They would have exercised caution. Just like every responsible media house does, that anything that would stoke communal strife, you will hold that back and you will not put it out, because you don't want to further stoke communal tensions. Because you have a social responsibility and you have a responsibility towards society. I'll tell you what, Raviji, I'm not going to wince words here, okay? When there is a Hindu-Muslim fight on ground and the Muslims have gone ahead and have had a go at the Hindu society, then it says there's a fight between two communities. The very same people will keep quiet about it. If it is the other way around, where Hindu groups have had a go at Muslim groups, then it will say Hindus attack Muslims and India is not a safe country for Muslims. Look how these people are peddling deliberate narrative, pushing Hinduphobia while also while branding the other side as Islamophobic. No, sir, no. Don't say all kind of, don't justify, sir. Don't justify, sir. These are people who claim to be independent. These are people and platforms who claim to be allowing a sane voice and also have a responsibility towards society. Especially, sir, when you have a verified blue tick against you. The other aspect, sir, one more thing I have a problem with this platform is what Abhijit Iyer Mitra said. Pakistani handles changing their names to Israeli names and standing there and abusing the country, and Twitter allowing it. This happened when Hamas and Israel were in conflict. Pakistani handles using Russian and Serbian images and then peddling a false narrative into our country about Israel and Hamas, having a go at our country. Sir, I'll tell you what, all of this was allowed. It was not taken down, sir. Twitter, no, sir, I am just saying, if Twitter can take down Mr. Sodi's post, the CEO of Amul, when he posts a paper, posts a campaign, and it can suspend that, saying that this content is we have a problem with this content, it can suspend his account and pull down that post, then they very well pull down all the other posts, because that means they are monitoring. And they deliberately allow some things to slide and they are not allowing other things to slide. You cannot have a partisan approach if you are claiming to be an independent platform and claiming to be a platform. Then your approach has to be the same. And certain people get amplified, other people get checked. Then clearly you are taking sides. Then you are not independent and you are taking sides. China and want to come in. Yes, China and then I'll go back to the lecture.
Yeah.
That's a misleading statement.
See, I just
No,
want to
sir,
make 2 points,
I am playing on
Anand.
fact. Sir, this is the post. This exit the dragon post. I was there and I spoke to Mr. Sodi. They pulled this out. They pulled this down, sir. They pulled this post down. Why did they pull it down? Why did they pull it down?
Against it, sir. You can complain against it.
No. Why should I complain against it? You can sue about to pull down certain posts, but you will not pull down other posts? What does that mean? China NC. China NC. No, sir. No, sir. And they got 3 months time. 3 months. They did not have time to set up an office and set up a compliance officer and a grievance officer. Sir, they were trying to cock a snook at our country, and I am not going to tolerate that, and we should not tolerate that. Those who are willing to compromise the country and its sovereignty just because they want to take on the current establishment and they have a political axe to grind, I have a problem with their narrative, sir. Yes, we should collectively have a problem with that narrative. China NC, yeah.
Please request him now. In most cases, Anand, the reply got from these so-called intermediaries is that awaiting instructions from the headquarters in the US. Now, how is it fair that when they do business in India...
No, sir, no presumption. These are actual answers which have been given. No, Raviji, please stop. Raviji, I request you, please don't heckle her. Please don't heckle. No, sir. She is stating the factual responses which have been received.
Let me please...
Sir, please do not. You may disagree, Raviji. Raviji, please yield. Raviji, please yield.
Relax.
Raviji, please yield.
Relax, sir.
Raviji, please yield. Raviji, you heckle me, sir. Please don't heckle her. We can have a go at each other, but China NC didn't interrupt you, so allow her.
Thank you.
Allow her.
Thank you, Anand.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I want to question, how is it fair that when they do business in India, earn revenue from data of Indian users, the team sitting in the US can sit and make an ex-party assessment on the situation? Grievances cannot wait a redressal from the US.
Raviji, please wait.
Someone is being defamed. Sir, please keep quiet. Just let your blood pressure calm down a little. We don't want you to get so... Can I finish my point? Be a gentleman.
Raviji, please.
Be a gentleman. You're a senior citizen. I don't want you to have this kind of anxiety.
Raviji, my request, please. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone is being defamed. Someone is being abused on these platforms, and there is no liability. People who are victims have suffered because they do not know how to approach and who to approach in absence of public information. Not just in India, globally too, these demands have been rising for more transparent functioning of social media giants and to yield with this enormous power. Please understand the immense revenues and power the social media giants don't seem to mind undermining democratically elected national governments. They must understand that taking on a decision as big as suspending the account of a sitting US president with millions of followers was taken by the companies in a matter of hours.
Sir,
please go back and check your facts.
One minute. My simple point is, 1 minute. Can we have...
Understand section
Can we pull away from our
79 of
guest,
the
please, for a
IT
minute?
Act?
Please understand this. Please understand this. The fact is that the government of our country has taken its own sweet time while allowing these platforms to get a toehold in our country and then think that they can actually call the shots. Now have a look at this. Twitter's revenues, Facebook's revenues, Google's revenues in our country and their user base. And if I were to share with you these numbers, Facebook has got about 41 crore plus 53 crore plus 21 crore. That's the overall user base of Facebook when I were to take Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram put together. Overall revenue is more than 1250 crores and a net profit of more than 135 crores. Google on the other hand has got a 44.8 crore penetration. Google, and of course YouTube. YouTube has got close to 80% penetration, over 600 million users of social media in our country. 5,500 crores plus, and 586 crore is their net profit. Twitter has about a base of 1.75 crore people, and revenue from India itself is more than about 55 crores. So that's a big number for a company like Twitter, because it also amplifies its valuation. Dilip ji, final word before we wind up this debate, and I'm coming back to you. It's the idea is not that we want to stop criticism. The idea is that you cannot allow your political narrative to somewhere indirectly hurt the country and challenge its sovereignty, and that's where we should draw the line.
Anand, I have a different line to draw.
Ji.
I think that I do not want a private company to decide whether to pull down something or to push up something.
Correct.
I have a problem with that. If they are an intermediary, it is the equivalent of having a highway, and you can say, I'll pull off cars who are eating matar paneer and I'll allow cars who are eating paneer tikka. You know, it's ridiculous. You cannot allow an intermediary to be anything except an intermediary. It is the right of a sovereign elected government, the law enforcement officers, to say, these tweets are causing trouble. Here is our representation. Please take them down. You have 48 hours to do that, 12 hours to do that, 6 hours to do that, whatever it is. I think that as citizens of this country, we cannot give the right to Twitter, WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, any of them, to decide which content to pull down or not. That decision has to be taken by someone who is responsible for the country, the map of the country, the peace of the country, the safety of our women, all those issues. That is the way this should run. And that is the way in which intermediaries should be treated. Not as people with the right to put tags on anyone, but people who have to follow the rules of what is being laid down.
Very well said, sir, and summarized. I totally agree with you. Thank you very much to all our panelists for joining us on debate number 1. As we wind up the debate, a quick check on the coup poll of the day, and that's what the subject matter was. Break India forces, what should be done with them? Is it time to take Break India forces to task? That's the poll of the day. At News 18 is the handle. 96% of the respondents believe yes, they must be taken to task, they must be taught a lesson, because they cannot think they can get away with it by challenging and hurting the sovereignty of the country, and of course allowing those who want to have a go at the integrity, the peace and the unity of our Bharat. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, it's the big vaccine debate. Stay with us.